Hey Zachary, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about your motion and your mechanics, talk about a few things and stop the video and look at, frame by frame what we're doing. Basically overall, for your age, it's pretty solid. It's pretty good to see that, you got a lot of good things going on that, you normally don't see with kids your age. So it's a good starting point. And now it's just a matter of building from there, and we'll kind of go through and talk a little bit about what we expect to see at sort of different points in your delivery. So as you get older, get stronger, it's going to come a lot easier. But like I said again, it's all pretty good for you. So nice work on that. Basically, basically the whole idea of pitching is to repeat ourselves, is to repeat our mechanics, to get consistent, so we can get efficient. All right, we can get efficient, we can keep ourselves healthier, we can create more velocity, and so we'll kind of go through the initial setup. The initial setup dictates so much about how we're going to finish, that we're going to go and talk a little bit about it. So you can see that you're doing pretty good at staying over your backside initially. A lot of times you'll see guys out front who will kind of kick back as you start, but you're doing a pretty good job at staying over that back leg. All right, you're getting your hips closed off. Hips are what's going to create power. All right, hips are what we need to have lead down the mound and to get going first. So you're getting a good initial setup. All right, the biggest thing that we can work on and change is what your hands are doing. All right, or what your glove would be doing if you had one on. Okay, so once you start here, all right, you're starting kind of right around your neck. All right, then those hands go up, and then they come down, and they break a little bit late, but I mean they break, right here they're starting to break. All right, so when I was kind of talking about efficiency of movement, we want to try to cut down this distance. All right, doing this doesn't create more velocity, doesn't create really anything beneficial for you other than timing issues. All right, some guys kind of think it's more momentum coming down, it's easier to kind of time, but it's really not. You might get your body going forward a little bit quick, and that's going to cause your hands to not drop as much. You're going to break here. You might be a little bit slower, your hands might be quicker, they might be here. There's just so many variables of where are those hands going to break, because there's so much distance right here. All right, so if we can drop that down here, keep it around our chest a little bit more, now there's less variables. Now our hands can pop out here, it might pop out here. There's a lot less sort of variables when we cut that distance down. All right, so work on initially when you come set, have those hands somewhere around that chest to that belly button, but try to keep it there the whole time. All right, now that leg hits that glove, that gives you a little bit of a timing sort of signal to know that now we break our hands and get going. Because once we get going forward, we want those hands to be breaking. All right, so we want that ball to be coming out of the glove in these frames, and you can see it's just a little bit late with everything. All right, so we want to try to break those hands over the rubber before we get going forward. You can see just because it's so high, it's just a little late. So, again, with all that distance, you might break your hands here. You might break your hands, here. You might travel a little bit farther. You might be here. So there's just so many variables that makes it a lot harder to time. All right. And then one other thing too is sort of the way your hips work down the mound. Is we want to try to keep the hips out in front. And what I mean by that is you can see that leg kind of starts to kick out a little bit here. So now it's kind of getting outside of your hips, whereas right here we'd still want to try to see it, right about here, right here, maybe now it's just starting to kick out. It's going to kick out, but we just want it to kick out a little bit farther down the mound and keep our hips closed a little bit farther, which will store up a little bit more energy. All right, so that foot strike, and basically that will keep us staying back too. So once that front foot first hits the ground, you can see how everything is out over your front foot. All right, we want to still have that load back in our knee, back in our foot, back in our hips, and nothing out front yet. All right, and again, this is strength. As you get older, you'll get a little bit easier. Your posture is a little bit forward, But basically what we want to try to get is weight on that inside part of that knee, inside part of that leg, and get more energy stored up here so that this foot strike, you're going to see a little bit more bend in that back leg, but most importantly, you're going to see your front foot probably about right here, and then you're going to create a little bit more angle in that knee, so that knee is going to be behind your heel instead of over your ankle. All right, so now you're going to get a little bit more back. That posture is going to be back here, but upper body wise is real good. You got good angles here. That gloves get down over that front foot. All right, nothing showing up injury wise with this angle here. All right, so it's looking pretty good. Now it's just a matter of staying back in this back leg so we can rotate through our release point with our back foot still on the ground, driving through that back leg and not pushing the ball. All right, so you can see how right here you can see this daylight between your elbow and your head, and so that's just pushing that ball, putting a little bit extra strain on that elbow, and you're kind of releasing that ball flat. So then at basically your actual release is between these two frames, but we'll call it right here. Your back foot will still be on the ground. All right, your head will be a little bit farther out over that front foot, and then you're going to cut down that gap between your elbows. So now your body's going to still be in line with that elbow. You're not going to be pushing it. You're going to be using that back foot because it's still on the ground and using all those legs. So then through that release, you're not going to be straightened up. You can see that this knee starts to straighten before that ball gets released. We're going to see you get a little bit farther out over that front foot, a little more bend, and then that release point, you're going to be a little bit farther out just because you're driving with those legs more. All right, so it's just a matter of staying back longer, which is really hard to do too at your age just because of the strength issue. But again, just work on staying back, feeling all that weight on that inside part of your knee. But most importantly, the biggest thing for you is just trying to work on cleaning up those hands and going from there. Like I said, it's pretty solid for your age, so it's real good to see. So good luck this year. Hope you have a great season. Thanks for making it out to camp, and hopefully we'll see you with ABC.